If you're not doing the basics of your business well, then you don't have anything to build on.
Hi, my name's Devin. Today I own several multi-million-dollar companies. We started with $5,000 in a credit card. I don't know the easy way. I only know the hard way.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Whiteboard Entrepreneur podcast, where I give straightforward advice to fuel the entrepreneur in all of us. I'm Devin Dickinson, and today I want to talk to you about if you have ever experienced in your company a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like our profitability is really sinking. You get frustrated. You feel like, man, our people aren't communicating. Everybody's kind of on their own page, or like, man, I feel like we're not accomplishing anything. We have like 30 things up in the air and we're not landing any of the planes in our company. And it's just this kind of constant, consistent frustration, lack of growth. Basically, your company is just stalling out. And I'm going to talk to you today about what I call back to the basics, because that's probably what you need to do. You probably need to get back to the basics. And many of you guys will probably know this name, and I love sports analogies, but there's a guy named John Wooden. He was a coach at UCLA, and he had this very classic style. Some of you probably even know the story I'm about to tell. When he was coaching UCLA, they were the best basketball team in the nation, right? Consistently the best. So he had these recruits from all over the country that were like the world's best basketball players. And they'd be sitting in their in the locker room waiting for this big speech, waiting to be able to go out there and show what they could do. And John would walk into the locker room every year, and he would say, all right, boys, this is a basketball. And then he would make them take out their shoes, and he would teach them how to lace up their shoes and how to tie their shoes. And the whole point that he had was, we are going to be fundamentally sound with the basics. We are going to be so good with the ball that we're never going to turn the ball over. We're always going to make our passes. We're always going to make our free throws. We are going to do the basics very, very well. And there's so much that we can learn from that story and apply it to our business life, right? And this is true whether you're a CEO of a company, or whether you're a manager, or whether you're a coach, or whether you're a leader of anything, a leader at your church or your organization, or whatever it is. When you start to find these levels of frustration, when you start to realize we're not growing, when you start to realize that you have so many projects going on and so many, we call them planes in the air that just aren't landing, and you're never finishing your projects, that's when I'm going to encourage you to go back to the basics. Recently, I bought back a company that I had sold 10 years ago. And I actually started this company 20 years ago. I had sold it 10 years ago. And for the last 10 years, it's been owned by a different organization. And recently I've been super blessed and was able to get it back. Love this company. It's something, like I said, I started. It's one of my very first successful companies 20 years ago. And I went back and I looked at everything that they had going on. And I looked at all of the projects, and I looked at all of the money being spent, and I looked at the communication styles, and I looked at what we were actually selling. And I realized, oh my gosh, we've got to get back to the basics, right? So we stripped everything down. All these projects that were being worked on, we just scrapped, we tabled them, we put them aside. We shaved probably over $2.5 million in expenses. And we just got back to the basics of what we were doing 15 years ago. And every day we would meet on the basics, and we would have accountability. And you know what we found? We found that we got so ahead of our skis on so many different things that what was the basics of the company, we were not even doing right. We had neglected the basics so much that the foundation of the company was melting and eroding the way. And even if we did accomplish all of this other stuff, all these other projects, the core of what we did, the basics, was so mismanaged that it was deteriorating, and that even if we landed the plane on these projects, there was going to be nothing left of the company. So we had to pause everything and get back to the basics and say, hey, team, this is a basketball. This is how we lace up our shoes. And immediately, and I mean immediately, like that day, everything changed. Now, don't get me wrong. We don't stay with this is a basketball, this is how we lace up our shoes. Because tomorrow, when you come in, you better know this is a basketball and you better lace up your shoes correctly. And now we're building on the basics, but we're building correctly. We're not going to go from here to here. So the next day we went, you already know what a basketball is. You already know how to lace up your shoes. Now we're going to go and do warm-up drills. And then the day after that, hey, now we're going to start working on free throws. The day after that, hey, now we're going to start working on passing. Now we're going to start working on dribbling. Now we're going to start working on layups. Now we're going to start working on 15-footers. Now we're going to start working on three-pointers. Now we're going to start working on a fast break. Now we're going to start working on pressing on our defense. And these are all of the things that we build on. But if the foundation isn't correct, if you're not doing the basics of your business well, then you don't have anything to build on. So when you analyze your business, go back to the customers. Are your customers happy? Do they like what they are receiving? Is the product good? Is your pricing correct? Do you say what you're going to do and then fulfill it on time? Do you charge the right thing? Do you deliver? Are your customers happy and growing, right? These are the basics. Before you start developing a new product, let's make sure that what you have today is correct and that people enjoy the service. Do you have people that are constantly leaving your company? All of these basics. Do people in your organization even know what the company does and what their job is? Why they show up and what they're supposed to do every single day? And that is getting back to the basics. What the basics are, your company is probably different than the basics at my company. But when we get as a leader, we get so far into the futuristic ideas of what we're going to do, what new projects we need to work on, what, the next, division that we're going to start, the 10 new people that we need to hire. And we forget about the core, or we neglect the core is probably a better way to put it. When we neglect the basics, when we neglect the core, it is absolutely pointless, fruitless, and a waste of money to be pushing towards the future, to be starting new projects if you're neglecting the basics. Let me challenge you. Ask yourself these questions. How is my product offering? How is what we do? Do we do a good job? Are we a good home builder, right? Before you go and say, hey, we want to get into commercial building, are you a good home builder, right? Like, are you good at the basics of what you do today? Before your marketing company, before you get into, graphic design, are you good at your digital marketing, which is what people are paying you for today? Before you start website management, are you actually good at what you sold them today? So before you start layering on complexities today, let me encourage you, and I know this is going to help you today. Go back and look at the core competencies of your company. Look at your core offerings. Are you delivering a great quality product that you're proud of? Are you charging it correctly? Are you billing it? Are you collecting that money? Are your customers happy? Are you providing the quality client care to those folks? If you're doing the basics of your company, you can now go to the next level, and you can iterate and you can iterate and you can iterate and you can grow and you can layer on. But before layering on any complexities, make sure that the fundamentals of your company are functioning very well, are very healthy. If they're not, stop what you're doing. Stop layering on complexities. Stop layering on divisions. Stop hiring. Stop everything. And go back to the basics. I'm Devin, and this is Whiteboard Entrepreneur, and I know this will help.